My name is Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of UpKeep, and I just wanted to start this panel discussion with a little bit of background first. So back in 2021, UpKeep brought maintenance reliability operations team together in a new approach called asset operations. And today and now, as of yesterday, we've officially launched our book on the topic of asset operations and why it's critical for our future and our industry. So I'm super excited to announce the book is finally here. It's alive on Amazon. It's already been shipped out to, hundreds, potentially even thousands of people all around the world. So I'm really excited about that. This book would not have been possible without the contributions of our UpKeep team, of our customers, of this community, and also, these three amazing subject matter experts who help partake in, writing, contributing, all of the thoughts about this book, Asset Operations, Sonia, Ramesh, and James. So I'm super excited to have this panel discussion. Let's give a warm welcome to James Reyes-Picknell, who's the principal consultant and president of the Conscious Asset. We also have Sonia Mathur, who's also the managing director and founder of Strategic Reliability Solutions. And last but not least, we have the reliability. Ramesh, you already knew this was coming, huh? The one and the only reliability Sherpa himself, also over at Reliability X. It's great to have the three of you to help celebrate this amazing launch of this book, Asset Operations. So I did a quick little background, but why don't we go around the table, the virtual table here, and share a quick introduction about ourselves. Maybe we could start with Sonia.
Of course, they start with me. Why not? I'm Sonia. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, and I am so happy that the UpKeep team took the time, they took the effort to actually put this book into print. I got a preview of it. It hasn't cleared to Trinidad yet, shipping and customs and all of those great things in life. But I saw the book and oh my God, blown away, Ryan. The team did it again. You all it's when you look at the book, it's just it opens up the entire mind. So I'm so happy to be part of this. Love that you all got it out there. We need so much of it out there because we have to get people involved. We have to get them excited about, going into operations, maintenance, reliability. These are all very exciting fields. At least to me, to me it is. But I know we need to get more people involved in it. And I think the book does just that. So definitely excited about this book. Glad that it's been launched. And I'm passing it over to James or Ramesh. Either of you, you'll take it away. I know you all have a few books in the work as well. So go ahead.
Well, I can go ahead, James. Hey, good morning. I'm glad to be here. I'm really so happy that my other professional friends are all here. We are going to talk about Ryan's book. Before I talk about myself, I just have one question for Ryan. How the heck he did in 6-8 months this book? I mean, it took us 6-8 years to write one, and he did it in a short time. And wonderful book. I just got a copy, just got it yesterday, so I'm happy to get it. And again, my background, I'm the youngest kid in this, learning a lot. You still have long to learn. It's a way to go, but hey, I'm learning. I've been in this business, started my maintenance career as a maintenance guy way back. I don't remember even when I started after I graduated. And over the years, I've been involved in maintenance, reliability, and asset management. And one of the challenge this book talks about operation management or asset operations has been about how we can get more out of our asset with minimizing our costs. And that's what this book is about. And I've been teaching, preaching all of this from last so many years. I'm glad Ryan took a stab at it to getting all this in one place, to speak. Otherwise, we have to go at another book, talk about production and operation, then maintenance and reliability. And we have been living in silos. Now we have tried to put all this in one place.
Thanks, Ramesh. Glad to be here. Ryan, thanks for inviting us to participate in this launch. It's quite the event. I know I've launched a couple myself in the past, and I didn't get them done in 6 months either, I can assure you.
Yeah.
That does take a long time when you're working on your own. And actually, I found it took longer when you had a group of people helping, because you've actually got to wait for them. And they're doing you a favor, and it's really hard to kick butt when the person that you're kicking is somebody that's doing something for you. So that's a little bit of a challenge. But, throughout my career, and it's like Ramesh, it's been kind of a long one. I'm not sure which of us is the older, but we both have similar hair color. I've worked in naval ships as an engineer, aircraft, ship design and construction, ground-based avionics, petrochemicals, and in consulting, just about everything else. I think the only continent I have not worked on is Antarctica, and I got to admit, I'm not really all that keen on it. Living in Canada, I kind of know what the climate's like down there. The thing I've noticed throughout my whole career, and Ramesh, you've probably seen this in reliability, where organizations are really sharp with reliability, really mature in reliability, they're also really good with maintenance. And those two kind of go hand in glove. Where people focus on improving maintenance alone, they tend to miss the boat a little bit. They get some minor benefits, for sure, a little bit of efficiency gain, but they could still be doing all the wrong work. And that's where reliability comes in, making sure you're doing the right things. And then, of course, with the good maintenance practices, doing them the right way. And of course, I'm working right now with a client who will remain nameless, where the bulk of the reliability problems are actually because of operators, not because of the equipment itself. The operators are not operating it as it should be. They're abusing it, quite frankly. And there doesn't appear to be much of an appetite to actually correct that. So, as much as they might want high reliability, they're not going to get it as long as they keep beating the equipment up and using it the wrong way. So getting reliability, maintenance, operations all going together is what this book's all about. And I honestly think it's really hit the mark here. In the implementation, the only thing, I think I sent Ryan a comment at one point was, don't forget to get executive sponsors on this, because if you don't have top level support, nothing's going anywhere. No matter how everybody else plays in the sandbox, without the boss to actually make sure they stay in the sandbox, it won't work. but you really hit the nail on the head with this one, Ryan. I think pulling them all together is exactly what has to happen.
Thank you so much, Sonia, Ramesh, and James, for all of your support, contributions to the book. I think the common theme here was like, how did we do this in 6 to 8 months? Well, I'll tell you that this is not just 6 to 8 months of writing. It's been in my head for 6 to 8 years. Joining, kind of like working in the industry, one of the first things that hit me was like, man, why are we still using this term CMMS? It kind of first appeared in the 1960s. And I think the best depiction of, how slow things have really moved is 60 years later, we're still using this term, computerized. And I very blatantly don't think that describes, our kind of software or system. And when I first started working in this industry, that was one of the first things that hit me. And I said, why? Why are things still this way? So we have like these amazing minds, this group of 3 amazing contributors to this industry. And I want to start with a question to you, Ramesh, that kind of hits on this topic around change in this industry. Why? Why is it so slow? What's happening? What's going on in our industry? And, why do you feel like our industry has been so slow to change? We often talk about, the disconnect, these silos of maintenance, reliability, operations. Why hasn't anyone else, done this before?
Well, we all have tried, but it's a change. Change is very slow people are scared of change. They want it but they want on others, not on themselves. That's it's a kind of we have to make a change. As Gandhi said, you have to change yourself if you want to implement change. You have to show people, and that's plus over the years we have created these silos. When I got in the industry back in '60s, before that we didn't have a silos. Operator used to take care of assets, used to have ownership. I remember when I was going to the training in my college days, this guy wanted me to clean the shop. I mean, lathe. I was working, make sure it's shining. He felt proud in it. And then 60s, 70s, 80s, we lost that. Ownership concept, we lost it. Production, operation was more concerned producing more. Let's get more out of our asset as much as possible. What happens to equipment? Don't worry about these. Maintenance guys will fix it. Those are guys who are going to fix it and take care of it. So this silo business came. Let's do more get a lot more production out of our equipment. Let's do maintenance guys, let them maintain it. And then also corporate wise, let's not invest much money. I was so surprised when I was working Bethlehem Steel in Buffalo. They had equipment which was made in 1930s, 40s, and 50s and 60s. And this young kid came from a college. I couldn't believe how they could do it. What they told me, they said, money. We cannot invest money. We have to get more out of it. Those guys and our financial guys were looking how we can get more out of our current asset without investing in a modernization or making improvements in our process. So I think over the years we have created this silos business. Hey, you all at different departments don't talk to each other. But I think lately we have started going back. Hey, we have to we don't have to look the lowest cost or acquisition cost. We have to start looking into what's the total cost of reduced cost of ownership in the life cycle time, which you talk about in the book. We have to start looking at the life cycle management, how we can reduce our total cost of ownership, those kind of things. And also in change management, let people be aware of this change, how we can make their life, the person who is working as an operator or maintainer or engineering, their life better by working on these assets, make them more safer to operate and maintain. That's the reason I don't want to call maintenance guy. I'm maintenance guy, but I want to this term capacity insurance. That's what we need to be calling maintenance guys, capacity insurance. We try to maintain the capacity. It's a little bit different mindset, different paradigm. As you talked in the book also, I just glancing through this morning, and I like kind of hey, this is a cultural change, paradigm change, that maintenance is a capacity insurance, and we have to start looking more how we can get more out of return from our asset, but minimizing total cost of ownership. So that's what it is. In fact, now I'm working on ISO 55000, which we are updating now, and there we are trying to see total life cycle cost. How we can minimize that, get more out of our asset.
So my theory, and I actually, I feel like I approached this with a negative tone, but I think in theory, actually, this idea of, building silos was built for a reason and very intentionally. And I think it was built to actually reduce costs, build specialization in thought and expertise. You build these, let's call it silos. And I think what's happened over the last, let's call it 10, 20, 30 years is the proliferation of data, which, previously you had these like silos of expertise. You focus on one thing, you do it over and over and over again, and you become highly efficient at it. And let's call it, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, it wasn't possible, or at least the cost to aggregate all of the data was extremely high. But over the last decade, 2 decades, the cost to aggregate all of this data, join and break down all the silos, and have the ability to aggregate data across the entire asset lifecycle, that cost has come down much more. And I think, it was for intentional reasons to create these silos, to create houses of expertise.
Yeah, we kind of sub-optimized it by doing that, but we want to make improvements. We sub-optimize it. Now we have to look as a total, how we can optimize as a total whole.
If you look how silos formed, it's very much like the way the military is structured.
That's right. Yeah.
And of course, military have a joint chiefs of staff. In Canada, it's a chief of defense staff. It's not chief of the Army or the Navy or the Air Force. It's everything combined. If you look at what's going on over in Ukraine today, the Russians are making a real fool of themselves. And it's because they cannot get their act together. They're working in silos. And the organ grinder in charge is a little bit off his nut too, but that's another story. The thing is that in order to have success, you really need to work together, and that's those silos. You want to get rid of the walls, or at least punch big windows in them, and communicate. And we don't do that well. And if you look at where we're kind of like the choir here, right? And we're all singing the same song, but the fact is, in business, in the companies that are producing something, actually using the physical assets, we only go so high up the food chain, and above that is where some of the changes need to take place in order to cause those silos to actually communicate across the walls. And the guys at that top level don't come from our background. They really don't have that appreciation that we have, simply because they've probably not worked in it, right? Like CEOs don't come out of maintenance. They come out of operations, they come out of marketing, they come out of finance, right? They rarely come out of human resources, and I don't think any has ever come out of maintenance unless you're in an outsourced maintenance company. And then it might happen. But we don't really have the influence because we don't get to that level where we can have the influence. And we've tended to be technical. I think we're all very technical here, and we don't always talk business. And of course, when we do get the opportunity to talk to these folks, we kind of blow it because we don't really talk in their language. Heaven forbid we get into the details, right? Because we just go way down into the rat hole, and we lose them. So we don't do ourselves a favor there. Ramesh has referred to this as capacity insurance. I've actually suggested in conferences down in Mexico and Chile that we actually call it a reliability department. Get rid of the whole concept of a maintenance department. Maintenance is what you do. Reliability is what you want. And it's got to be seen. I've even gone so far as to suggest the operations people should report to it, because they have such a big role to play. And ultimately, it's all about capacity to produce. That's what we do. And if we don't cooperate with each other, if we don't actually do the right things to make sure that things do keep working, we won't produce. It's as simple as that. And from the very top, we all think that corporate goals will cascade down automatically. Well, they don't. I think most companies do a really poor job of that. I've been in many companies where you ask them what are the corporate goals, and they can't tell you. Make money.
No,
your company's the same as mine then, right?
I mean, I'm gonna go out, very strong here and kind of say that I believe that companies have no excuse to have these silos nowadays. We are here today. Communication technology has only gotten easier over the last, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Over the last 2 years, it showed us that we can hold these global webinars for people coming in from Mexico, from the US, to Morocco, to India. It has shown us that collaboration is possible now. It is shown the importance of it. There's no excuse for us to be having these silos within our companies and departments, which is a core premise of the asset operations book.
And then somebody's going to say, well, how do I get my bonus? And there's a KPI involved, and the KPI probably involves a departmental metric that may or may not be in competition with other departments. And the classic is stores and maintenance, right? Stores wants to minimize what it's got on the shelves and maximize turnover. Well, maintenance would probably like to see that, but they really want to make sure the parts are there when they need them. and the more parts on the shelf, the better for them. So if in one case, more is more, in the other case, less is more. They're inherently in competition with each other unless something ties them together. And it's not just data; it's information. It's how you use the data. I think that's important. And we have the systems. Frankly, I'm convinced the systems have gone way beyond our ability to use them. And most companies, no matter how good the system, how complex the system, or how simple the system, how user friendly, how user hostile, doesn't matter. They all screw it up. And I think that's something that senior, like executive level leadership needs to understand that and start thinking about what do we need to do about this, just so that we start working well inside, not just looking at making our metrics look good for the stock market.
Yeah. So James, you're a specialist in asset management, conscious reliability. How do you think, asset operations, if and when we do this, really operationalize this entire vision of asset operations, how do you think, or what impact do you think it can have to the industry?
Huge. I do a lot of business case work for my clients to show them that it's actually worth making a change happen. And my biggest fans tend to be the guys at the shop floor who see life getting easier, and the CFO who sees big dollar signs, and the COO who says, I can actually get to sleep at night and not worry about all this stuff. Those are the people that really like sort of that business case. And I've seen typical, if you look at the classic maintenance cost savings, 20%, 30% on that, quite easily achievable in most organizations. When it comes to revenue, it depends a lot on what it is you're producing, but easily 10 times the cost savings in maintenance will be added to the top line in revenue or more. I did a business case a few years ago, 2 years ago actually, for a mining company, 6 operations, $100 million a year in annual cost savings, almost $1 billion in revenue gain, just from the added availability. And I've seen that over and over and over again in different companies to different scales, right? That was gold mining. I did work with a diamond mining company some years ago. You're not going to believe the number. I didn't believe the number when the CFO told me $600 million in the first 6 months. And all we did was really simple stuff. Now, it wasn't just maintenance. We were focused on reliability. We talked to the operations people about let's not break stuff. We talked to the reliability guys about let's do the right maintenance and start focusing on some of that. And then in the maintenance shops, we focused on some really basic stuff, cleaning, getting rid of the dust. This place happened to be in a desert area, so a lot of dust coming in. I said, guys, put doors on those walls there. Keep some of it out. Stuff wasn't breaking as often. It made a big difference. All simple stuff, and it all came from that coordinated effort: the maintenance, the operations, the reliability, and the senior leadership was on board with it. That was a key to success. The others would not have done it had they not been pushed by their boss. I've got a good friend who says to me, what interests my boss fascinates me, and he's got a good point. So when I talk about this sponsorship thing, that's key. So the impact of asset operations, if we can achieve it, is huge.
Yeah.
The challenge is, of course, achieving it. And silos it's not just something that happens in companies. It's a whole mindset and thinking. Yep. It comes from the military. Other companies run like one of the big innovations at the beginning of the last century was the assembly line. Henry Ford. Companies run like assembly lines. Right? I produce something, I pass it to Sanya. Sanya does something to it. She passes it to Ryan. Ryan passes it to Ramesh. Each person does their own thing and doesn't necessarily know what the other one does. And so are we all adding value? Yes. Could we add value if we knew more what everyone did and helped each other? Absolutely. And in the Toyota production system, you see that happening where anybody can stop the production line and fix a problem. They can't do that if they don't know how to fix it.
The theme here is value. The theme here is, communicating value. If and when we achieve this vision of asset operations, the theme here is showcasing the value of maintenance to a business and being able to show those, $600 million in cost savings to a business. We're getting
most of that was revenue, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Exactly. And either cost savings.
Cost savings came 2 years later.
All right. And even in the chat right now, we're getting some amazing comments from, Ahmed. Omar's talking about how to communicate effectively. Felix was mentioning, how do we communicate the value and the problem for maintenance teams not knowing the value within the organization? The issue and the core theme behind asset operations is, like we talked about, asset lifecycle management, connecting, the purchase price to the ongoing maintenance, the ongoing reliability of an equipment to what we do and how it's measured and how it's communicated up to, the C-levels of the business, the value of what we do and why we do things as a maintenance reliability operations department. When we have these silos and we are measured based off of number of PMs that we complete, number of work orders that we hit the check mark on, we aren't being showcased based off of the why we do things. Instead, we get measured by what we do, how many hours we work, not the impact to the bottom line, and be able to showcase $600 million in additional revenue or, $500,000 in cost savings.
One of the challenges with some of those neat business case metrics is like I know I can deliver a lot more revenue. The cost savings in maintenance, which will be maybe a tenth of that, and frankly, do you really need to worry about that if you're gaining so much extra revenue? Maybe not. But the cost savings is the one that's going to show up on a departmental budget. The revenue never does. So nobody's got responsibility for it. Yeah. And so you don't have a champion until you're at that C level. At that point, then there's a lot of interest in it. And like I see, like I've sat in fact, just this morning, I was in a meeting online, just like this, with a large mining organization, CEO, COO, and CFO. And we were talking about what we can actually achieve. And they're just delighted to hear the sort of thing that's possible. And they know they've got a big business case there. The real challenge is, how are we going to actually make it happen? And I made the point to them, Mr. CEO, your name is going to go on the program charter and your signature. And whoever's going to lead this thing needs to have your weight behind them. Because and they said, what level does he have to be at? And I said, senior enough to go nose to nose with the general managers and win the arguments every once in a while. and that's how you get past some of these silos, because below those levels, everybody's just doing their job. Pushing paper or whatever it is that they're doing, fixing things. The guys that fix things don't care about the data. One of the reasons they don't care about the data is they don't see anything happening with it. Back in the 1980s, I was in SO Chemicals Canada, Exxon Chemicals, and I was responsible for keeping things reliable in this complex of 7 petrochemical plants. And we had a bad actor program, and our definition was real simple. If it failed 3 times or more a year, it was a bad actor. And I just told the guys in the shop, I said, here's the list of the bad actors, put it on the wall. Remember, this is early days of computerized maintenance management systems. Ours was homegrown. I said, anytime one of these, you're here to work on it, I don't care what time of day or night it is, give me a call, I'm coming in. And for the first month or two, I think it was about 2 months, I was coming in like all kinds of odd hours when some of these things would come in. It was a bit tiring. Finally, the guys in the shop took pity on this young engineer and said, what is it you're looking for? Maybe we can do some of this for you. And so I started talking to them about what I was doing, what I needed to know. They said, well, we can take pictures of this stuff. We can get that kind of information, we'll help you. And I didn't have to ask for it. They offered it. and they did, because somebody was taking an interest, a genuine interest. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of our companies today is like the reliability guys, if they exist in the company, don't ever show anybody at the shop floor what they do with the data and how it was useful in helping them do their job. And if they knew that it was useful and how it was being useful, they might actually want to do a better job and my experience was people are pretty self-motivated, but you got to give them a reason. And
it comes back to the whole connecting why we do what we do with what we actually do on a day-to-day basis, understanding the why. So Sonia, I think this goes back to, or it brings me back to this next question here. I would love to hear from you, Sonia. Like, how do you think readers will respond to this new approach of asset operations? Do you feel like people are going to challenge it, embrace it, something in the middle, or am I completely?
Oh boy. I think the first thing for them is that they're gonna carve out the time out of their day to finish the book, because that's what I did when I got it the first time. I couldn't put it down. It was simple. It was easy to understand. One of the things that I really liked about it is that it tied everything back together. And that's something you don't see a lot of. You talk about assets, usually what we hear is asset management, and, we hear about this is what operations has to do. This is what maintenance has to do. This is what reliability has to do, but we never tie it together. And this book brings everything together. It even has the pillars, the different eight pillars of, the asset operations and people. It steps back. It allows any of the readers to step back and say, okay, wait, now I understand what maintenance has to do, coming from an operational standpoint. Now I understand what reliability has to do. And nobody has taken the time in the past to really explain it, to get people on board to say, here's what, this is what I need help with, but this is how it's going to help you. This is how it's going to help the company. If we work together, we can all get the day off on Saturday, bring it back to them, bring it back to what matters to them. So that's what I liked about it. It is going to ruffle a few feathers, but that's what we're here for. We have to start at some point. The feathers have to be ruffled to start getting the gears churning, start getting people to start thinking outside of the box, change the way that they do things. And we can't do the same thing over and over again. It's not going to work. And we've seen what happens. It doesn't work that way. We've gotten, kudos to the team so much for getting it together and putting it out there. We have the book now. Now we just need to get it into the hands of all operations, maintenance, reliability, the CEOs. And I think what helps as well is that Ryan is championing this. So it comes from Ryan, and we're like, oh my gosh, it's Ryan, we got to get this book. But still, it helps because he has the background of understanding and working within the industry and knowing that this is not a regular thing. We need to start changing what we've been doing all this time. We need to start communicating, and this is where it starts. Ryan is just jumping off on the platform here and leading us in that direction. So good job, Ryan.
Yeah. So step one, get the book, read the book.
Yes.
And I think to your point, I think the first question that's going to often come through people's mind is where do I start? Mm-hmm. We got actually a great comment here in the chat that's live from Zibu Sosa. He mentioned, speaking of data, we should have one data repository as an organization, whether it be in maintenance, reliability, operations, that we use as a single source of truth and use that as the platform of collaboration. And going back to your point, after reading the book, where do you start? I think you start from exactly that point. And I think, Zibu Sosa, you brought this up, and I think that's a great starting point of where do I start? How do I get from where we are today to ultimately this vision end state of asset operations? Start having a single source of truth for your data that connects maintenance, reliability, and operations, and use that as a platform for collaboration.
Ryan, I might toss a little bit of a wrench in the works and suggest that while I agree that is absolutely essential, I think what's needed first is that shared vision.
That's right.
And right now, I don't think most organizations have that. And asset operations, the concept is great. I would suggest that it should be taught in business schools all across the world. One of the challenges with the people who are managing businesses is that they've got a business background, finance, human resources, marketing, right? But operations, what's that? And they really just don't get it, and nothing teaches them. And even in engineering education, how many engineering schools actually teach anything at all about reliability at the bachelor's level? Nada. It's a graduate level education for that, or you're self-taught like me. And Ramesh, I'm not sure where you land on that one.
Well, again, I agree 100%. We don't teach. In fact, I'm trying to do that. Is going to local engineering colleges, talking to your dean, installing at least something fundamental of reliability and maintenance in their undergraduate programs. So I'm making some headway. In fact, I've been teaching at University of Wisconsin. It's a professional there. Professional people attend my 3 days class, but we are telling them. I talked to Dean over there. I talked to Dean in a local Tennessee college here locally, and say how we can start this, because we don't teach them what's required. And also one thing which you also touch base a little bit about, we have to create a culture and educate people. We do in silos, but we have to work together. One example was, I was talking to this company and I educated them, their maintenance guys, but he became a operation head. The first thing he asked me to come down, and he said, hey, talk to my all supervisors. And I did for in the morning 6 hours, in the afternoon, in the evening 6 hours, all their supervisors and quality guys, everybody, to bring them on board. Hey, we have to working together. Our goal is one, to get more quality product out the door. Quality product. So how we can get that make happen is working together, not fighting each other. And that's it's a more education, cultural change, and it takes a lot of time. And that's a problem, because changing the culture, I have done it. It takes 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, even 10 years. If you want to change the whole or large organization, it may take you 8 years or 7 years, to change the culture, where people are talking same language, reliability, and all kind of things. It's not funny, but one time I was in early stage of this company. I was working with them. I was given a negative. I'm too reliability guy. I'm always talking reliability. They will stop me on the way, and I always think I got a reliability. I said, he's a one-track mind. That was a negative on me. He's too persistent on reliability. Well, okay. So I think it's a cultural change, and it takes a lot of time and educating people at every level.
Yeah.
It will take time. That's without a doubt. But it's a time that we are willing to invest. I think that's why we're here today. And it's a change that is worth making. I think all of us believe that. I want to ask you the question, James, and kind of direct this question towards you. After reading the book, I'd love to ask you, were there any concepts that really stood out to you that maybe you hadn't connected or maybe hadn't thought about before?
The one that I hadn't really thought about before, which would be near and dear to your heart, was the idea of a single data repository. The whole idea of collaboration, get rid of the silo walls, all that stuff. That's stock and trade. I think we fight those battles every single day in this business. But the idea of having a single repository, I thought, well, it's a good idea. I think there's one or two companies out there that maybe try to do it, and I won't name them, but they don't really do a very good job. They've actually designed their software in silos, and they don't even integrate very well internally, let alone with other stuff. There's a long way to go before that central repository actually exists. And I think one thing that would go with that that's really going to be critical is the thinking about how are people going to use it. Like if somebody, like, I'm not a great computer guy. I learned computer programming on punch cards right back in the 70s. So I'm a dinosaur. But the idea, if you put me in front of a computer, and no matter how easy the software is to use, I'm going to need to play with it a little bit before I can actually. And I'm generally pretty good with it, but something that allowed me access to a repository of I don't care about the data; it's the information I'm after, and that data needs a context, and the context matters to the user, and the operations user in one industry may not be the same as the operations user in another industry, and consequently they have different perspectives on what has to come out of that database. So that database is going to be something pretty special, and thought needs to be given to how it's built so that you actually have that context accompanying the data, so it actually does provide value. Like when I go into a computer system, I don't want to look up a bunch of data. I see a bunch of tables and numbers and stuff. It's like, yeah, what's it telling me is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty good at looking at big sheets full of numbers and that and spotting patterns, but these days computers can do that better than I can, but they need to know what they're looking for, and I think we've gone down a path with technology and big data and all that stuff, buzzwords. It's big data, but is it big good data or is it big bad data? and most people are drowning in it because it is absolutely no value to them, because they can't get anything out of it that actually gives them valuable information that they can make a decision with. And of course, on top of that is the silo thinking about, do they have the authority to make a decision, even if they can, right? Like, are they allowed to? And there's all those things that kind of get in the way here. But I love the idea. I just see, and I'm glad you put it out there, Ryan, but I see it as kind of the start of something big. It's like, Einstein didn't have to prove that E equals MC squared. He left that up to everybody else. So you're throwing this out there, and it's up to the rest of the world to kind of figure out, okay, how are we going to actually do this? And I think there's going to be a big challenge there. But I did like that concept. I really did. That
was one of the core pillars for the entire vision of asset operations. And we always start there because, in my view, in our view, it's a pyramid, right? But the base foundation is the data. And to your point, like, even these big buzzwords of AI, machine learning, it doesn't matter unless you have a solid foundation of good big data. And that's what we wanted to start with. Someone else, even in our chat earlier today, was saying the data is what connects really the maintenance, reliability, and operations teams to communicate and collaborate with the same knowledge on the same level playing field. Without the data to support the claims that we make and the decisions that we decide, it becomes an opinion game. The data component was so key, so critical. And, we kind of say that that's the starting place, to your point, James, after we get mutual alignment from all of the different departments, from the top all the way to the bottom. All right, Ramesh, I want to direct this question towards you. You've been a huge supporter of UpKeep, the community, this entire vision of asset operations. You've been in the industry for a long time now. I wanted to ask you, Ramesh, what made you want to give your time back to the community and the entire industry by, being part of today, contributing to this book, and always being so gracious with your expertise and knowledge that you've accumulated over the past many, many years?
Well, many years ago, I got involved with the industry professional societies and talked and made a friendship. So I learned a lot by benchmarking, talking to people. So I thought, hey, maybe I need to give back. So I started giving back and participating. And all the societies, conferences I go, like over the last 30, 40 years, I've been doing that and learning a lot. So I'm giving back also by book or participating like today's event, what I can give back. So that's have been my motto, how I can give back. And also, hey, it's a selfish interest too. By doing this, I'm learning too. It's not that lately, as I'm getting older or younger, I'm learning that I have a lot to learn. I don't know much. There's a lot to learn. And that's really, after I started writing books, I found out, hey, I don't know this. And usually when I go to find something on Wikipedia or somewhere, and those blue things, I hit those, and for hours I'm there. So I think there's a lot to learn, and then I want to share those knowledge. That's what primary my focus is, especially now I'm kind of a semi-retired, and I'm kind of enjoying that part, working with people, educating, whatever training I provide, or work updating my books and participating on this kind of events. I enjoy it, and I want to share it back to my community.
Thank you so much, Ramesh, and obviously, James and Sonia too, for obviously graciously donating your time to helping support this book. To your point, like many of the reasons why I do this too is to have the opportunity to learn from you, Ramesh, and Sonia, and James. Everyone that's been part of our very, very lively and active chat. I hope you learned a thing, because I definitely have today. Maybe just to close us out, my last question to you, and then we can also open it up for Q&A. If you haven't already, drop any questions you have, and we'll try to get to it at the end. Sonia, I want to ask you, why do you think people, industry professionals in our industry, should read this book? What kind of value do you think it will bring to them and their team?
I think they should just honestly just start reading the book. Just order it. It's available on Amazon. Get it the physical copy, because you will be going through it constantly. It's something that you'll always go back to, because like I said before, it has never been depicted in this way before. We've never had somebody put together all of the different 8 pillars, or have all these different SMEs participate in one book like this, geared towards the industry, geared towards them getting the value of it. So I think operations could learn a lot. I think maintenance could learn a lot. I think finance could learn a lot. And they have a lot to learn. But let's not go down that road. So I think it's really something that should be passed through the organization. So what I would envision for this book is that we have a few copies floating around the organization. We have some for the maintenance team. Once they are finished, they should put their notes on it and send it to the operations team. Operations put their notes, reliability, and all the notes should come together and go straight to the top, because guess what? We need to have everybody participating in this, because it's not, we can't do the silos anymore, guys. It just doesn't work. Yeah. So I think we should definitely do that.
Sanya, I'm glad you said, get people to share it and put their notes in it. I, as you were talking, I was thinking, don't just get one copy. No. Get one for your boss. Get one for his boss. Get another one for your operations boss, because most of the people here are probably in the maintenance and reliability world. And if you think about it, we've probably got our own little silo going right on this little presentation today. And it's because, we just haven't reached out far enough yet. We've got to do a better job. So get more than one copy.
Yes.
All right. Love it. Love it. All right. So that was the end of all of our pre-prepared questions for our amazing panel. Vinny, did we get any questions from our audience?
We did, and we have a few minutes left before we hop on at the top of the hour for Bob Latino. Thank you so much for this great conversation. Ryan, why is the title of the book Asset Operations? Why not Asset Management? Any specific reason?
Oh, I mean, that's an easy one for me. I wanted to connect, what we do for the asset and how we operate it. I felt like asset management was very, very, again, a siloed view. I wanted the word operations because I wanted to connect operations to, what people generally think of asset management, which is maintenance reliability. I wanted that word operations. I wanted operators to feel like they were part of this book and part of this puzzle piece, and not just maintenance reliability. It was very, very, very intentional. Oh, what else?
All right. So another question was, it was great to see experts on a single platform. I'm very proud to be a maintenance manager, vibration analyst, trying and striving to improve reliability culture. Who is the prime responsible for the assets in an organization, the leader or other employees?
I mean,
all. All.
Everybody.
So I'm thinking that's all of them.
All of
Yeah,
them.
everybody.
Of course. So yes, it's all. Here's my like vision for the future. My vision of the future is that we don't have a maintenance, we don't have a reliability department, we don't have an operations department. Instead, we have an asset operations department. Maybe it goes right back to what you're saying too, James, where maybe operations reports up to reliability because that's the thing that we want. That is the outcome. Maintenance is what we do. Maybe we're kind of like saying the same thing. I think the vision here is like we have an asset operations department, an asset operations manager that is responsible for connecting these three departments, these three different silos, and bridge the communication gap that we see, and bridge the what we do to why we do it.
What we did in our organization was one for small area, the manager was responsible for operation, production, maintenance, and capital projects altogether. There used to be separate three departments. We pulled them out under one. He was responsible for everything because usually people say, "Hey, I don't have a capital money. Capital money is over there, or maintenance they do it." We said, "Nope. You are responsible for every these things. So you are totally responsible asset operation, maintenance, and capital improvements too."
Yeah, I think I've seen something similar in lean manufacturing environments where, I've asked in benchmarking, what's your maintenance budget? Well, we don't have one.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about who are those guys in coveralls with all the grease on them, right? Who's paying for them?
Yeah.
And it was just part of operations.
Yeah.
In that case. Now that doesn't necessarily mean just because they put them together in one department doesn't necessarily mean they behave like they're one department. And I think that underlying the concept here is the fact that there's a massive change in behavior, and that's going to require a massive change in thinking. And so education is going to be key, to making a start at that. And then I think this whole idea, this whole concept has a chance. But we've got to change over a century of assembly line thinking, and silos go back to probably the Roman days when they had legions. So there's a lot of thinking that has to change, and it's not just around having data; it's around having information and sharing it. The one source of the truth. I love that, but how are we going to actually put that together right now? Like, I don't think there's a system out there right now that does it. Maybe Ryan, maybe UpKeep's going to be that system. I think that's probably your vision. But so far, nobody's really pulled it off yet. So there's a challenge to the tech industry, right? Like they're good at producing stuff that the rest of us can't use. I think you've made major strides to fix part of that. That's for sure. So.
Well, thank you, James, and absolutely, that is our vision. To your point, like there's still a long ways to go. Today or yesterday was the launch of this book, the vision of asset operations, the future. That it's really painting the picture of what we hope the future and what we know the future will look like in an ideal world. There's a lot of work to get there, though, and I think that was a common theme from today. We're not there yet, but we know that there is a path to getting there. And so Vinny, Sonia, Ramesh, James, we are right at the top of the hour. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a huge contributor to the entire community, for being a huge contributor to this book that has taken me, 6 to 8 months writing, but 6 to 10 years of just brewing inside of me. I really appreciate it. A special thank you to everyone that has joined us live today, that's also watching the recording, for everyone that submitted a question, for everyone that purchased the book, for everyone that read the book. I really appreciate it. This is one of my most proud moments of being part of this company, is writing this book and really changing what the future looks like for our industry. I really appreciate it. I can't say that enough. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.